always remember when I did not understand how I used to stand under all the fool's rules running these lands. I had my head in the sand and I was asleep. Now I learn a little more every day, and I'm waking the sheep. Gonna say it out loud, say it proud, get it out, 'cause I'm burning inside, cannot hide it no more. I'm a raconteur too. Yeah, I'm a raconteur too. Oh, I'm a raconteur too. Oh, the people in the chat room singing. Oh, I'm a raconteur too. One more time now. Oh, I'm a raconteur too.
And good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News on this austere Monday, the 9th of April 2018. We've had this discussion before. I can't believe we're doing it, still doing it. Sorry about the preview show yesterday. Unfortunately, Andy was unavailable and I lost my voice. As you can tell, it's just about come back, so we should be good to go for this evening. So what's been going on? We've got a bit of a skeleton staff tonight. Usually there's 4 of us, but AD, not fortunately for him, in fact he just Skyped me not long ago, he's on holiday in Thailand and loving it long time, I would imagine. So he's just went over there on Saturday. He did Skype me earlier on with some video as well, but I really couldn't tell what he was saying. But he did look like he had a young lady of not ill repute, because but a young lady assistant with him who was going to assist him with his bathing and things, because that's the sort of thing that they do over there apparently. But have a great holiday, AD, if you get to listen to this. I'm sure you will at some point. You'll say to one of your little Thai friends and say, would you like to listen to my friend's radio show, our Raconteurs News radio show? So maybe that's in the pipeline, but good luck to A-Day. I'm joined, as usual, by my fantastic co-host and, a bit of a rock for me, really, Andy Young. How you doing, Andy? Have a good weekend?
I'm good, mate, thanks. Yeah, I was feeling a bit washed out at the end of the week last week, so I had a whole weekend off the computer, and, wow, it felt good.
Absolutely fantastic. And it'll save you a bit of that nonsense, because we've got President Trump first saying, right, we're going to pull out of Syria, and then suddenly Assad starts using chemical weapons. Oh dear, what a bit of a... Do you think he'd got it already lined up and couldn't withdraw, take it back, or what? It's a pantomime, isn't it? Every time you turn the news on, it might as well say, and here's how thick we think you are. And then just do the normal news thing. Webby as well. Webby's not with us. He will be here tomorrow, but he's not with us at the moment. He's on Afters. So if anybody remembers what Afters is about from around here, that's what he's on. He's on Afters. He'll be in a bit later on. He might come on for the last half hour if he gets home in time. But don't hold your breath. But he'll certainly be on tomorrow. Big good evening to everybody in the chat room as well. John Hall's in there. Sambo. Drunken Leeds this week. Is there any other leads? He's always drunk, we've had he's been on the show a couple of times and phoned in, but he's usually quite refreshed. So let's get on with tonight's show. We've got I went on the weekend here in Sheffield. There was a a protest outside the City Hall for the trees. So I thought, oh, go on, I'll go down there, I'll grab a camera and I'll see if I can get some footage, and I'll see if what the mood's like down there. And I'll tell you something, it was the most hostile thing I've ever come across for tree huggers. It was quite hostile, because what they were doing is they were being really vociferous against anybody that was bringing up the issue of 5G and that being the reasons for the trees being felled. Now, the paranoia was felt. I mean, there was anybody who got anything with 5G written on it was a bit of a pariah. And there was one lad, and I remember I saw him, and there's a speaker, and he got his banner up behind the speaker, so he's obviously in the line. And there were some distinguished speakers there. I mean, Jarvis Cocker was there as well. Not as much as I don't particularly care for Jarvis Cocker, but you know, it's notable, and it sort of gets their ideas out. But what I don't understand is if they don't think that it's the 5G is the reason why the trees are being destroyed, genocided, then what do you think? What reasons do they think? Anyway, so I'll just tell you about the young guy. He went up behind and he got the banner, and I went up to him and I said, hey mate, hey, because they were trying to usher him away and they were being quite forceful with him, and I was saying, oh, leave him alone, and I said, oh yeah, to this kid, and he ran off, and I said, no, I'm on your side, and he sort of like said, he said, I don't want to know, and he was marching off, and there were a couple of women at the side, and one of them said, oh yeah, that's Jason, he's off at radio, he does radio shows and all this, come back and talk to him. So he came back and he said he did apologise, and he said, I thought you were undercover police, which says something about what I look like at the moment. So we've got come on,
Jason, I just want to know, come on, let's be honest here, was it you that he recognised, or was it Colin?
Well, you see, I didn't have Colin with me. Colin was in bed. He'd been drinking heavily the night before, and had decided that he wasn't going to come. So he's still in the doghouse. He's not pulling his weight, so I don't know whether we might have to replace him with the latest addition to my family, Watson, who I'll show the people on Facebook Live a little bit later on when we get to the break time. But I think it's about time we introduced our guest. Our guest for this evening is an expert on 5G, radiation weapons, so many things that I don't think I could reel them off, even if I had them written down in front of me, because there's that many things. And I had a word with this guy a couple of days ago, and we're in for a bit of a treat tonight. It's Mark Steele. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right, gents. Very, very good as it happens, and great to come on the show and dispel a few misconceptions about the 5G story.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that you're going to do that. We have had prior warning from one of our other co-hosts who's not here at the moment, but he did say that there's to expect somebody who's done a lot of research in the chat room. He's going to come into the chat room tonight, and it's a guy who's done a lot of research, and he says that from his findings that 5G is completely harmless. What would you say to that?
Well, his current security classification is just about zero. Who does he work for? Osram or one of these, or does he work for O2?
Sorry, I don't know. So I've just lost my Facebook Live feed, so
all right, I know he works for. Well, unfortunately, 5G is actually a phased array weapon. So if we want to get into weapon systems and that off the bat, but you know, I wouldn't do that at first, because obviously, like I said, I prefer people to do their own research, because what they'll do, I'll take them down the rabbit hole and I'll point them in the right direction. But I expect everybody, in fact, I implore people to do their own research. Don't rely on me. I am not an expert in microwave radiation. My expertise is in the terahertz range, which is a little bit higher up the spectrum and a little bit more hazardous. But what I will do, I will point you to the leading experts in the world of microwave radiation transmissions. One of the things we'll have to be very careful of, 5G is a battlefield interrogation system. It's a phased array radar weapon system. So 5G, you must understand that obviously the Spooksville world, they want 5G because basically the whole dystopian idea is get rid of all police that can monitor everything 24/7. Tell you, it's a class A cancer-causing radiation. So what's going to happen? Even though they want to spy, you're all going to be dead, without shadow of a doubt. All right, there's been 2 latest studies. So people, and if you've got a pen and paper, the NTP $24 million, it's the most in-depth study on non-ionizing radiation, shows it is most certainly a class A cancer causing radiation. There was a fully published, a 10-year study just being published 2 weeks ago, by the way, in Italy, showing that it is also a class A. So the science shows it's a class A cancer radiation, not the 2B. Non-ionizing radiation was classified as a 2B cancer-caused radiation in 2010 by the WHO. However, the reason why it was only classified as a 2B is obviously because of the economic issues that would have been caused if all of a sudden they said it's a class A, like asbestos. But one of the things that everybody has to also take into consideration, these transmitters are uninsurable. And I'm a businessman, so I always go where the money is. So if Lloyd's of London have deemed these transmitters in relation to harm to human beings is too risky to insure. I mean, you've got to remember, these guys will insure rockets going to the moon, satellites being launched, pretty risky old business. They will not insure microwave radiation transmitters, won't insure them. They're too risky. So let's not mess around, right, with what it is and what it isn't. What I'd like to do, though, before we start, guys, let's just talk about what 5G is, because there's a lot of misinformation about what it is, about higher frequencies. 5G is really more. It's more 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And where 5G becomes really interesting, the antennas are interlinked. So they're phased array antennas. So whereas in other emissions, you have antennas that observe inverse square law, 5G antennas can be pulsed in such a way where you start to see beam waves. They're basically illegal. So the antenna operates outside of the current IEEE standards. Well, any standard in the world. And that's why 5G hasn't got any standards. The reason why it hasn't got any standards is because it would fail them. So what's actually happened, we've got a technological, we have a paradigm shift in technology, where technology is now, I mean, we may as well go, we've had hundreds of years of standards and regulations. Just get them all, put them on the bin. Put them on a bonfire and set fire to them all. We make motorcycle helmets. I invented a waveguide to go inside a motorsports helmet, and that helmet's for a head-up display system. And the reason it was designed and invented the way it was because it mitigated the optical radiation hazard. Optical radiation's a hazard. If it's projected into the eye, you have to be very careful about it. And actually, the energy's in the waveform, not as much the power density output. It does make a difference, but the energy's in the photon. All right. So we designed this waveguide that attenuated the optical radiation hazard, so you could actually see at the near eye area without damaging somebody's eye irreparably. Everyone will know if you go out and you get snow blindness, or if you're out skiing, that can cause cataracts, etc. The reflection of the photons, and normally photons enter the eye through a reflection. So we've got this waveguide that reflects photons to the near eye area. Now, what actually happened? We had a very, very successful business, and it came under a sustained attack from one of the largest technology companies, from Rogue Elements, within one of the largest technology companies in the world. Now, I was pretty amazed at this, but what that allowed me to do was actually look at the competing product that this technology company was putting out to offer. And when I first looked at it, I took it as, on face value, like everybody does. And I thought, that is absolutely one absolute piece of genius. Now, I know that this technology company employ best-in-class double firsts in every university across the world. That's what they do, they harvest intelligence. And I thought, they've come up with such a shift in my understanding in optical radiation and light frequencies. I was blown away. Because what this device actually did, it was a pulse modulated full spectrum emission directly onto a person's retina. Now, what I know from weapon sight systems, what we normally do for a weapon sight, we use something in the 560 nanometers range in and around there, and that's why weapon sights are normally green.
Okay.
It's not because the military like green, even though we know that they do. The reason why the weapon sight's green, it's because it's less biologically hazardous to the person's eye. And if you're going to project light into a person's eye, then you need to make sure, and these weapon sights are only for short periods of time, you need to make sure that it doesn't, you don't want to blind your troops, let's put it like that. You don't want to blind a pilot, because obviously he's worth a lot of money and you've trained him over a number of years, all right? So you don't want to bring harm to your troops. In this particular product, it projected full spectrum optical radiation directly onto a person's retina. And I just thought that is absolutely one piece of genius, because whatever they were actually doing was beyond my comprehension. And then what happened, there was I spoke to a guy who purchased one of these headsets, and he was in Tokyo. I'd been walking around in the city in the middle of the night, got back to his hotel, and he had a residual image left on his retina. Couldn't get to sleep. 2 hours. Now, you know, everybody's actually looked at the sun sometime. Maybe might be a few people who haven't. There's a few people where the sun catches your eye, or a bulb catches your eye, you know, in the house or whatever, and you get this red glow in the back of your eye. Well, that's not very good. All right. And what you definitely wouldn't want to do is have that image over a long period of time. You know, it's the same when you get a welding flash. It's not very good. And that's why you wear protective eyewear, to mitigate that particular risk. So I thought this is amazing, and what that led me to think, we know that monocular visual systems cause significant damage to people's eyes anyway. Your eyes you've got a binocular visual system that inextricably linked. And if I was to offer optical radiation to one of your eyes over a period of time, you've got a problem. And that's why in a laboratory you use binocular microscopes, not a monocular microscope. It's all right, you know, when you were at school and you had a monocular microscope, well, that's fine, because you've only used it for an hour or so. But if you were to use it all day, you're going to have problems. And you also have problems with microscopes anyway. So there's issues with optical radiation and people's eyes. So I believe that this thing obviously hadn't worked out the optical radiation issue, because obviously the residual image, but they most certainly hadn't fixed the monocular visual system. And I was predicting to people, I was saying, well, that's just going to fail. Now, this thing had multiples of millions of pounds. It's a household name. You know, I'm not going to mention who it is, because we're currently talking to lawyers in relation to the this illegal sort of antitrust issue that went on. I mean, we had websites crashed, emails stolen, and it was pretty obvious who was actually behind it. In fact, we've got all the evidence to show who was behind it. So anyway, that's I can't go into who those characters actually were. However, there was a chap based in America, very, very well-respected scientist, and he did an article on this particular product. And what he came up with was the antenna in this headset was the same as the antenna in your mobile phone. Same design. Now, for those that don't know, and people that are listening tonight, your mobile phone is possibly safe against your away from your head for about, let's say, about an inch. It's not, but we're going to say it is, because that's the international regulatory standards. All right? Yeah. That's a thermal value. It's a SAW value. And it actually basically cooks your head. This is another thing about these international regulatory standards. They're of thermal value. So remember that, because we're going to come on to it later on. So this thermal value is the baseline. And what this chap in the USA had carried out, a bit of research work in relation to these headsets, what he was saying, the antenna is actually in the headset. It's strapped to your head. It's on all the time. So unlike a mobile phone where, you know, you make a phone call for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, this thing is actually on your head 24/7, and consequently that could offer you a significant risk to yourself, but it would most certainly fail the current FCC standards, because your phone, it tells you in your phone to keep it away from your body, It tells you that for a reason. And the reason for it is because the thermal value exceeds the current international regulatory standards. And mobile phones do have standards, and that's why you're not supposed to have that phone. And it tells you in the small print not to have it next to your body. And what this professor was saying, this antenna was actually strapped to your head. So it was incapable of being off your head, and he was saying it will certainly fail the FCC standards. Now, I contacted this chap and I said, well, believe it or not, the larger risk is the higher frequency waveforms that you're pulling through your head, because this isn't a controlled architecture as the 560 nanometers, and it's not green, it's full spectrum, and some of those frequencies are extremely hazardous, and especially from a pulse modulated device. And that then led me to start looking at some other products. And I started to get pretty worried about the lack of the regulatory bodies to step in and go, hang on a minute. And we brought this to the attention of PHE. We brought it to the attention of Trading Standards. There's a lot of these gaming headsets focusing optical radiation directly on people's eyes. I mean, it's basically a mobile phone and a headset with a magnifying glass. Now,
it's incredible how many kids, the teenagers particularly these days, wear glasses. This is the first generation that's really had for a long period of time. And there are many. My stepson wears glasses. He's diabetic, and that could be a part of that. But also, my daughter wears glasses. It's the amount of kids that these days that wear glasses, because they all seem to buy the same type of glasses. They're always the same, black rimmed things. They always seem the same. So there seems to be a link there as well, doesn't there?
Well, light. If LED emissions, you've got a higher level of blue light that's emitted from these LED diodes, and obviously that's a higher frequency part of the waveform, 450, 400, 450 nanometers plus, and consequently that offers significant, more of a deleterious effect to people's eyesight. And we'll see this as time goes on. Nothing wrong with screens at distance, because you see a lot of attenuation over a distance. All right, there's a lot of attenuation in the energy, and really, as long as you're far enough away from these screens, you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. But if you're sitting on top of it, if I magnify that, right, then you've just basically turned the whole thing on its head, because you're focusing that image through a magnifying glass. A bit of an analogy, when you used to burn spiders with magnifying glass when you were a kid. I mean, I wouldn't do anything as terrible as that, but I'm sure there's some people out there that have used magnifying glasses as kids to focus light.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Mark, but this is just... I mean,
it's not... Yeah, go on.
There's something just clicked in my head, and I'm going back probably 2 years to the last conversation I had with Barry Trower. We were talking about Barry before we came on air. Yeah. Firstly, there's been a couple of comments on the YouTube channel saying, have you checked out Barry Trower's background? Now, I haven't really answered them because, I don't think there is an answer to that, because if the guy was debriefing Cold War spies, the likes of me and Jason aren't going to be able to check into his background in the first place. But the other thing that I remember him saying distinctly was that these safety levels that have been allegedly set for these mobile devices, they were actually tested on American Marines. Now, I'm not that shit hot on biology, but I do know for a fact that an American Marine is going to have a lot thicker skull than your average 8-year-old kid. So when you see 8-year-old kids running about with phones strapped to them permanently, I'm thinking, well, hang on. Yeah, they're saying it's safe for American Marines so long as you've got it an inch and a half away from your head. But here's an 8-year-old child with it pressed firmly to their head and just oblivious to the fact there might be any sort of danger there.
The danger is absolutely shocking, and you've hit the nail on the head. The regulatory standards are a thermal value to a 200-pound male. So basically, what they're saying, as long as, and I call them a coupling value, right? And I'll tell you why. And I'm absolutely disgusted at anyone who pretends, because that's what they are, they're pretending to be scientists who espouse this position on this thermal value is the only mechanism for harm. And the reason I say that, there are hundreds and hundreds and growing numbers of published, peer-reviewed, very, very well cited papers that shows significant biological harm in non-thermal values. Now, as we all know, a scientist, right, take it from me, a scientist has to review, in any subject, it is incumbent upon you to review all of the published, peer-reviewed science, and then have an assessment of what's actually out there, and then do some research on the back of it. Your current WHO, your PHA, your Protection Health England, I mean, these people are criminals, currently operating totally outside of the legal system. I don't know what's going on there, by the way, but you have to remember these people are advising ministers, and ministers are being misinformed today in relation to this technology, and it's the reason why it's ended up on your streets. I don't know how they've been hacked or other, and I can prove that. I mean, when I was at Gateshead Council, I spoke specifically about the impact on young children, small flying insects. The transmitters that the 5G transmitters that they rolled out in Gateshead at Gateshead Council, they were the 31,875 to 25 milliwatt transmitter. To put that into context for the lay people out there, the maximum you can be exposed to is a 200-pound male, is a 1 milliwatt. This is a 25 milliwatt transmitter. So I knew that any small flying insect that would be attracted to that LED streetlight would be completely and totally annihilated. And obviously that's what we've seen. We've seen a total annihilation of flying insect population, etc. Now, PHE at that council meeting, the head of dosimetry, now I'm not really sure if the head of dosimetry did say this, but Gateshead Council most certainly did, and people can watch this. The first part of Gateshead Council's, Mark Steele Gateshead Council on YouTube, where Councillor McElroy states clearly, the head of dosimetry stated that Mark Steele's assumption that microwave radiation has a more deleterious effect on small flying insects, small pollinators, small children, the unborn, and women is not based in science. Well, unfortunately for Gateshead Council and the head of dosimetry, it's a basic law of physics. All right? The reason why a 1 pound chicken takes less time to cook than a 5 pound chicken, so all lay people know that. Yeah. Now, why does the head of dosimetry not? Why are we paying scientists in these government agencies that don't understand the base? That's if she said it. Now, and the reason I say that, I've went back to Gateshead Council, I've run an FOI at them, so that they can answer me the question of who this person is, because I want to, if they did actually make that statement, it's misfeasance in a public office, because that is totally and absolutely, from a scientific perspective, unsubstantiated, and it's the information that Gateshead Council have and are relying on to roll these 31,875 transmitters out. Now let me just quote Professor Paolo Vecchi. Professor Paolo Vecchi is the head of ICNIP, right, in 2008 at a London conference. What he said about the exposure guidelines, it's really important. What they are not the mandatory prescriptions for safety, they are not the last word on the issue, and they are not defensive walls for industry or others. However, that is exactly what they have become. Uses defensive wall against the very many published and growing scientific research papers showing the significant hazard posed by non-thermal microwave radiation. The current 3G, 4G and experimental 5G transmitters have not been risk assessed against smaller bodied living things like pollinators or the unborn. There are no long-term studies to show that chronic exposure is safe. Absolutely none. And not only that, these 5G transmitters are operating on parts of the spectrum which have never been exposed to humans before. So they're totally experimental, and that's in breach of the Nuremberg Code. Now, I don't know how many people are listening to this radio program tonight, but I implore you, Gateshead Council have just this tonight, have put up a post telling the people of Gateshead that there's some rumours going around about this 5G rollout. It's not true, not substantiated. I want everybody to go to Gateshead Council tonight. I want you to have a look at this, because this is absolutely criminal. Gateshead Council normally get 2 shares and 3 or 4 comments maximum on anything they post, right? What they have actually done tonight is employ some spoof organisation, either based in India or whatever. Go and have a look at the post. It's on their main Facebook page. And what it says, they've got hundreds and hundreds of comments about in all tinfoil hat. You know, you hear the whole spook. This is just a load of nonsense. I mean, this just shows the criminality, the unlawful activity of a local authority, where they will go and apply. I mean, they must think people are absolutely brain dead. They've got hundreds and hundreds of comments on a comment on their Facebook page on 5G, when they normally get about 3 people. I mean, like 1 share, 2 shares. I mean, they've got to go and have a look. That is a conspiracy. That is a conspiracy by the council to dissuade the people from understanding what 5G is no different to what's happening in Sheffield. Sheffield are losing their trees, and they're losing their trees to 5G. 5G signals require these higher frequency waveforms, require all the trees to come down. For 100% 5G coverage, you need 100% tree clearance.
Right, well, Mark, I've just clicked on the Gateshead Council Facebook page, and I think I've found the post you're referring to. It's put up 5 hours ago. Is that the one?
That's the one. That's the one.
Is it okay if I read that out?
Yeah, read it out. Yeah.
Okay, this is from Gateshead Council. We are aware that certain individuals, I think that means you, Mark, are frightening local people with false stories about streetlights in Gateshead, despite the fact that we and others have told them repeatedly that their allegations are entirely false. For your reassurance, we'd like to set the record straight. Gateshead Council does not, in capitals, use 5G technology in any of its streetlights or in any other capacity. It has never done so. The streetlights in Gateshead will not give you cancer. The streetlights will not induce miscarriages in pregnant women or cause insomnia or nosebleeds, and they're not killing all the birds and insects. Gateshead Council is not carrying out secret government trials in 5G technology via our streetlights. We don't know how these conspiracy stories start, but we're happy to report this is exactly what these are. These tales are completely untrue and you should ignore them. Please be assured there's no scientific basis or credible evidence for any of these scare stories about streetlights causing cancer and other illnesses. We've taken advice from Public Health England, who reviewed guidance issued by the World Health Organization, the International Commission on Non-Ionising Radiation, and others, and they've confirmed that there is no risk. We ask you to share this information with your friends and neighbours, as we understand that some residents have been badly frightened by those tales, and the more people who understand they're completely false, the better. 510 shares and 412 comments so far.
Right, you go and have a look at the other. Go and have a look at that other comment. Right, now this just shows the criminality at that and the unlawful activities at that council. How many shares did they get on that post?
510 shares.
That's a lot, isn't it, for a local newspaper article?
No. Go and have a look at another one of that posts. Not that post. Go and have a look at the other post. Another post on that Facebook page.
I found one with 118 shares.
Yeah.
But most of them have got 2 or 3.
2 or
1
3
share.
shares.
5 shares. 5 shares. one comment, 69 shares on one of them.
Oh, let me see.
Oh, that's about Foundations Furniture. Yeah, Brainstorm. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, while you're doing that, Andy, having a look through that, I'd just like to point out that we've been having some major problems with the Facebook live feed. Twice it's cut itself out. So, Mark, you obviously there's something amiss, because we sometimes, on the odd occasion, if somebody else is saying something as controversial, not as controversial as
truthful,
as perceived to be controversial.
Perceived to be well, I'll tell you how controversial this is. The Council of Europe 1815 resolution, everybody that's listening, I'll go and read it. What they're committing is a crime. Here's another one, right? In the second part, Gateshead Council will not reply to any of my FOIs. They have shut the democratic process in Gateshead. They will not reply to the second question. At Gateshead Council, they said they would reply to my second question, where this radiation, after the NTP study and this latest Italian study, shows that it is most certainly a Class A cancer-causing radiation. And not only that, the 868, 870 megahertz frequency was only released for 5G. The hardware on the top of those lights, I don't know if anybody wants to go to the YouTube video, have a look at the 5G hardware breakdown. I actually had one of their light transmitters, 5G transmitters, thrown at me by a lighting guy. Quite funny as it happens. Anyway, I had one through at us, and obviously I had to take it home. So I took it home. Anyway, I took it to the office and I did a technology breakdown. Go and have a look at it. It's a 5G antenna, right? It's a phased array 5G antenna, and it is illegal. And I'll tell you another thing. There's a guy along in the Felon, right? A really interesting character, and he was at a meeting, and he said to the deputy mayor turned around and said, "This Mark Steele's a liar. He's a liar." And this guy called Lee turned around. He said, he's not getting paid. Nobody's paying him wages, right, to tell lies. Why would he be telling lies? He said, you get paid to tell lies. She got herself a bit upset about that and threatened him with the police. She said, I'll get you arrested. You've just made a statement. Then he said, well, yes, I have. He said, no, I believe you're lying. He says, he's got no reason to lie. You get paid to lie. And she turned around and she said, I'm going to get the police. And he turned around and said, oh, this is in a public meeting. He said, well, hang on a minute. He said, Mark Steele turned around and said that the chief executive was a criminal, right, at that public meeting in front of 60 councillors. He said, you haven't had him arrested, so why do you want to get me arrested for calling you a criminal? So, you know, the problem that we have, these institutions are out of control. They're out of the legal system has been broken. And this takes me to the Save Us Now. Save Us Now are a political party that's set up in the UK. These institutions are out of that box. They're lying to ministers. They're misinforming everybody. I mean, I don't know how it's all went awry. But what I can tell you, 5G operates outside of the regulatory standards. The regulatory standards are ill enough. Never mind bringing a new technology in. And the reason I say that, you know, the epidemiological data is absolutely appalling. I mean, absolutely appalling. We have a 68% increase in young women self-harming. You know, we've got 99 billion pounds last year. It's costing every year 99 billion for mental health services now in the NHS. The numbers are stratospheric. They all tie in with the science. The science says this microwave radiation causes neurological damage at non-thermal values. I don't know how Gateshead Council, I mean, you've just read out what Gateshead Council have said. I don't know they've been talking to, but it's obviously somebody that doesn't know how to read the current science. And they're not scientists. The head of dosimetry at PHE, who Gateshead Council are relying on, isn't a scientist. And the reason I say that, without any deviation at all, a scientist's main function is to assess the current fully published peer-reviewed papers. I'd suggest everyone anyone who's a bit confused about the hazard of non-thermal microwave radiation, Professor Martin L. Pal, he's the expert in the field. Ollie Johansson, another expert in the field. Professor Deborah Davis, another expert in the field. In fact, there's 270 of the world's leading scientists agree with me. They agree that microwave radiation is a significant hazard, and the reason why they have written an open letter to the WHO, the United Nations, the European courts, the European Council, and the European Parliament to call a moratorium on 5G. Gated Council say this thing outside, not even microwave radiation, most certainly is. What Gated...
Sorry, Mark, I just wanted... Go on, you carry on. Make a point. I just wanted to... look, we're an interactive show. We've got many people commenting.
I want to get some questions and fire them at me. Yeah, well, I like that bit.
Not so many questions, but lots of comments, particularly about... we've got Linda Lauderdale, who's watching on Facebook Live. How you doing, Linda? She says, methinks council staff have been busy in the comments section. That's referring back to the article on the Gateshead about Gateshead.
Oh, well, I would think, well, I mean, it is a bit obvious, isn't it? I mean, how can they get as many comments in such a short period of time? I mean, do they really think people are that stupid? I mean, basically what they've done, they've bit themselves on a leg. I mean, a guy rang me, he's just laughing before he said, I mean, he has seen how many trolls they've got commenting on this. And that's another thing, what I really don't like. The tinfoil hat trolls and all the rest of it. You have to remember the serious side of this. This is a humanitarian crime. 1815 resolution, the International Criminal Courts have told governments to stop exposing their populations to the microwave radiation and to reduce and to apply a LoRa. A LoRa is the precautionary principle. That means less, not more. 5G is more. And this council has rolled out covertly and in secret, and lots of others, by the way, covertly in secret, masquerading as a control management system, a 5G phased array antenna. It is one gigantic transmitter antenna.
Whoa. I mean, what intrigues me, what do you see as being the motivation behind doing this, Mark? Apart,
I know exactly what I know exactly what the motivation is. I've actually seen the promotional material from the telecoms companies, and the reason for this. The reason for this, and I know you get it straight away. Telecoms companies are telling councils, your budgets are being cut by central government. So what you have to do, you have to find another way to start to increase your revenue. So this is the dystopian world. Mm-hmm. Everything will have RFID tags in. All right, so everything will be tagged. Your packaging, your milk cartons, just about everything, tins, cans, packets of pizzas, and all the rest of it. So in this dystopian world, your smart fridge, your smart TV, everything's interconnected, right? So you get up, you go to the toilet, use a bit of paper. The next minute, you come downstairs, and an Andrex advert pops up. You've used the pizza in your box. You put the box in the wrong bin. You get a fine. Your car's parked on the wrong part of the road, you get a fine. So they generate money in fines, but they also generate money from the adverts, because as you sit back down, your smart TV pops up and says, you've run out of cheese. So there's a nice little advert for one of the big supermarkets or that. And what your council's going to do, they're going to sell that data to the highest bidder. However, what nobody told them, well, they did. PHE told them that it was safe. It's a lie. This is a class A cancer causing radiation. All right, so what they're doing, they're 3D mapping your home in breach of your human rights. It's actually a legal 3D mapping device. It interrogates your home, gathers your data without your knowledge, illegally and covertly, sells it to the highest bidder. All right? And what the real most serious thing, it causes significant neurological disorders. One of the reasons why we've got a 68% increase in young girls self-harming. Dementia is now Britain's biggest killer, overtaking heart disease for the first time. I mean, I can go on and on and on. In America, now this is quite an interesting piece of research published, that's just come out. It's been a 38% increase in young women. Now, apart from the absolutely horrendous personal tragedy for that individual and their family, we've actually seen a 38% increase. This is in the US in young women, 18 to 34-year-olds, suffering from strokes. Think how debilitating that is. Now, at the same time and from the same geolocation, we've seen a 15% increase in young men suffering strokes. So that tells me basically what the culprit is, because obviously head size, more, on average, a man's head's normally bigger than a woman's head, and consequently microwave radiation, one of your protections is a fact of your size. And that's why women, children, small-bodied animals are on the front line, and that's the reason why I always say women and children on the front line. These international regulatory standards, as Barry Trower said, which is absolutely spot on, 14-stone males were exposed to this type of radiation and it was deemed safe. The smaller the body, the more deleterious it is. That is in total contradiction of what PHE have said, and I know why PHE have said it. They're liars, by the way, and I'll call them out. I'll call them liars. If they want to have a conversation with me about people that are lie, these people should be in prison and nowhere else. There are people being hurt. There are people being maimed. There are people suffering brain injury today in this country, severe brain injury from these transmitters, because somebody at some institution can't do their job properly. We pay our tax to employ these people on very, very good salaries. What's wrong with them? Can they not read the research that Lloyds of London have read? Can they not read the research that I've read? I'm not an expert in microwave radiation. And the reason why I implore everyone, check out Martin Pal, check out Deborah Davis, check out these experts in the world who've put their reputations, their livelihoods. I mean, you've got to remember, these guys are under an immense pressure because obviously they're experts in their particular fields of microwave radiation exposure. They've had their research budgets cut. I mean, Ollie Johansson, he's had his whole organisation pulled to pieces because there are forces at work who don't want this story getting out. Well, guess what? It's getting out. Save Us Now as a political party, we must implore people, get behind the movement, set up your own chapters, right? This is our umbrella political party. It's okay. Listen, nothing wrong with protesting, demonstrating, etc. But you must understand, these institutions are immune to protest. They're built to respond to it. They have the apparatus to respond to it. What they don't have is the apparatus to respond to a political movement, and that's why political movements are such a great threat. Well, guess what? 5G is an existential threat to all of us. Everything you love, your family, your friends, it's an existential threat to everything you ever held dear. You can be 3D mapped. You can be targeted as an individual, a barrister, a judge, anyone working on a very interesting case. You can map them, you can debilitate them. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable how we've ended up in this particular situation. I mean, the smart meter fiasco, what a fiasco is that? We know that, the increased fire risks. This is an issue in relation to people's health. These smart meters are hazardous to human health.
Just before we go on to smart meters, Mark, you mentioned about dementia increasing, cancers, infertility in women. One thing that really has kind of smacked me in the face big time in the last 10, 15 years is something that's affected my life a great deal. We lived in a semi-detached house. The neighbours were old folks. They didn't even know what the internet was, never mind had Wi-Fi. We didn't have Wi-Fi. And then we moved into a flat about 10 years ago. Now, within 6 months of moving into that flat, my partner became very ill with no idea what was wrong with her. And she got a diagnosis which we're not entirely confident with even now of fibromyalgia. Now, when I started looking into it, I started seeing a possible connection with Wi-Fi. I mentioned this to Barry Trower. He said, oh yeah, my Wi-Fi is a well-known weapons frequency, and it turns out there's 27 different Wi-Fi signals available in our apartment. So if that's the case already with 3G, 4G and Wi-Fi, is that going to mean that everybody's going to have fibromyalgia with this new thing, or is it going to be far worse than that even?
It's most certainly far worse. We're starting to see an epidemic. I mean, brain tumours now the most frequent form of cancer in the US in adolescents. Miscarriage, there's a recent paper, only just was published at the end of 2017, shows that miscarriage rates have tripled when women are exposed to this type of microwave radiation. This was Washington State University, very well respected guys. And the real danger about this whole interconnected thing, obviously with my background in weapons systems, the US military are currently, and obviously there'll be no doubt there's intelligence people listen to this particular program because they monitor just about everything that I say and do. But what they have to understand, and they will fire this back upstairs, and they've heard it before, I'm going to tell them again. The US military's central heart of its data gathering, where GCHQ sends all our data, has been infiltrated. All right. It was cyber attacked by shadow brokers, right? So the whole system's been compromised. Now, the US military's Battle T-Win system, it's that full neural integrated centralized battlefield weapons systems. So it's basically that battlefield interrogation system and weapon systems has been compromised. The US military are currently decentralizing all of that battlefield systems. The reason why is because some of the adversaries, North Korea, China, Russia, are a little bit ahead of the game. The internet's built like a Swiss cheese. It's full of holes. All right. So anyone that would roll out smart meters are an existential threat to our energy infrastructure. You could pull the whole thing down. Russians could probably attack with tomorrow and pull the whole energy structure down through the 7 million plus smart meters. Not smart at all. Absolutely ridiculous. A complete and total fiasco. Multi-billion-pound fiasco and hurting people. This was a data gathering exercise, right? That's actually getting totally out of control. Now, we wouldn't be sitting here if, let's say, these intelligence agencies hadn't lost control of their own systems, because obviously they'd be gathering the data and it'd be really secret. It'd probably drop me down a hole somewhere, or try to anyway. But the reality is, right, there's no real encryption, and these systems are potential weapons. It was a 2.5 gigahertz weapon, as Barry mentioned, that was used against the US Embassy in Moscow. Now, obviously, they'll try and tell it's the same thing like you've got in the corner of your house. Weaponizing it is a little bit more tricky than just having it as a inverse square law emitter. All right, and anybody that knows science will understand what I'm saying there. But what I'm definitely positive about, 5G is the Trojan horse. It's a centrist data gathering intelligence agency's wet dream. All right, and the issue that they have, their systems have been compromised. So any data they gather about us, somebody else gets it, because they can't secure anything. All right. So what they're doing, they're basically gathering all our data, and then that data is there for anyone to have a look at. Any of the technology companies have got the wherewithal, got the capacity. They can basically just run rings round these intelligence agencies. So recently, a chap, Toby Wallen, did an article in the Mail Online. The Mail Online, believe it or not, right, whether you're that politically way inclined or not, the Mail Online, believe it or not, are sort of leading the charge in relation to this threat. I've never seen any other media groups mention, this existential threat. I mean, they were just on the BBC talking about 5G the other day, about how fantastic it is. No one's talking about the threat. But the Mail Online covered the threat, and they've actually had a report back from GCHQ. GCHQ It's an existential threat to the energy infrastructure. The head of military intelligence has turned around and said that this IoT is an existential threat and can be hacked. The head of the Ministry of Defense has said we're going to be attacked by the Russians that can use their superior electronic communication systems to hack into. And we've seen these hacks in banks, and we've seen these hacks, and we probably only know the half of it. But let's be honest. Would you really roll out a 3D weapons system across the country, and Gateshead Council really think that they can control it? I mean, you only have to look at the nonsense on that page. I want everybody to go and have a Gateshead Council's page. They've obviously, like I said, they must have employed one of these, because you can't do that. You know, you can go to India and get them. They've got loads of these fake Facebook accounts, and you know, you can get them to do anything. I mean, they must just think must think we're born yesterday. So let's move on a little bit to beamwave technology.
But before we move on, we're sort of coming up to the hour mark, and we normally take a bit of a comfort break at this point. Mm-hmm. So before we move on to another subject, I've got a burning question that I want to ask you in the second hour. But we will begin the start of the second hour with what you were wanting to talk about, what you were just about to talk about. So just bear that in mind. We're just going to take a short break. I want to say hello to the people that are watching on Facebook Live. Hello to Linda. Hello to Yvonne. Lots of great comments in there. It's quite difficult when you're presenting to keep up with them, but I'll do my best. And a big hello to everybody who's in the chat room on raconteursnews.com as well. We'll be back in the second half to continue our chat with our guest, Mark Steele. We're talking 5G. It's quite scary stuff, but please don't have nightmares. Andy's going to play us a record, and that should be a sweet lullaby. So if you're scared out of your wits, take this sweet lullaby and go get yourself back to sleep. But if not, and you want to hear more, and you want to hear what's really happening, then join us in the second hour after these records.
My name is Stephen Hawking, and I used to listen to Raconteurs News.
I see clearly now as the rain falls down from awful clouds that cross so black and grey. You're affecting me ecologically as you chase all of the butterflies away. See the people frown as the rain comes down on lit cigarettes. The raindrops play their games, but I feel unchained every time that it rains. I could never be a prisoner to the sky. But the harder it falls, we get trapped in walls, soaked by memories of our failure, and it's pouring over me. In his bed, on the edge of despair, comes a kind of rain no science can explain. Rain will fall, I go blind, think I'm losing my mind. The rain kicks you when you're down until you drown. Gets harder as I wipe it away, and the face in the cloud still has something to say to me. something to say. I keep falling over me. I can see there's a rainbow shining, showing me the way. I go blind, time has left me so far behind. Now I wonder if I'll ever see the blue sky shining, my heart's crying. Oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came down. Oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came down. Oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came, oh, and the rain, when the rain came down. I'ma have some fun with this one here. Woo-hoo! In the morning, when I wake up, all I want is Mary Joanna. In the evening, when I'm thinking, all I want is Mary Joanna. If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day.
Oh my God, you know you better watch yourself, because I know you're waiting on that one. Cause I'm telling you, cause I know. Cause you know the one I say, take off away, run. You let me see you do that run. Run, the one that they clan, the one that done. Cause I know you can't be me now, what you wanna do. Cause I'm about to break it down, me, cause that's all. Cause you know you cannot fade me now, let you wanna. You better back it down now, because I'm telling you, what bar, bun bar, cause I can't wonder. Because you know you like the way I put that pick up. Cause I'm telling all you fools what happened. And in a mercy, now what you wanna do. And in a mercy, now what you wanna do. And in a mercy, now what you wanna do. And in a mercy.
If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me.
Come on, baby girl, let's get it going on. I'ma hit the highway and do it my way. It ain't no game, girl, so I don't play games. I keep it up straight, right up in your face. So make your mind up, cause life is too short. I got the vest on, boy, put your belt on. Stop acting all cool like Kanye West, boy. You be riding through the wire and the camera get on fire. You don't want that, no, I don't want that, no. This goes out to pimps and chicks, so slow. Hit the backseat when you're doing the licking, kissing, squeezing. Do the damn thing, man.
You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, Mary Joanna to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, Mary Joanna to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke Mary Joanna to me. In the evening, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke Mary Joanna to me.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News on this Monday evening. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed the first hour. We certainly did. Lots and lots of information. We were just chatting there during the break, and Andy was sort of telling us how his mind's been been blown, and he's having difficulty getting his head round half that stuff. Well, welcome to my world, because this is my second dose of this. But do you have a good comfort break, Andy?
Yeah, it was good. The questions flying thick and fast. So to all those posing comments and questions, we'll get as many as we can across to Mark. Unfortunately, we're limited on time, so we can't get them all, or otherwise we wouldn't be able to chat with Mark. You had a question that was a burning question. I hope you wrote it down, Jason.
I did, but I think Mark was going to go somewhere. Just before we went to the break, so I don't know if that's where you want to pick it up, Mark. And yes, I have got it written down. So I
love asking a question. I'll tell you what, you ask the question, I'll do the question, and we'll start talking about beam waves.
Okay. Well, do you know what? I've been seeing these stories around on all sorts of different medias, but where they're claiming that they're working on technology, or they've got technology that will be able to turn your thoughts into text, and you'll be able to control the device by just using your brain. Now, if that is possible, then it's also possible for information to be transported in the opposite direction, and so that leaves your mind open. If to being able to have false memories put into you, where the implications are that if somebody's accused of a crime, then perhaps they could use their thoughts and turn them into text and then get a confession. But the other way round, they could implant a false memory into somebody's mind, which they would then turn into text on their thing. Do you understand what I mean? And how close do you think that this is? And do you think that it will actually work? Or do you think it's like a thought police tactic, just to say, like, we're going to be able to know what you're thinking, so you best not be thinking any bad things, a double bluff type thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, if you look at hypnotist, the thing I'm really comfortable with is terahertz range. So we're talking about light here. I can actually pulse modulate the screen the way a hypnotist does, and it's one of the things. It's one of the tactics that's employed by some of these computer technology companies. Where we'll call it sticky architecture, and what it does, it actually addicts people to actually doing or touching something. I tell people on Facebook, never ever click the like button, because you're playing share buttons. Don't like. If you like the button, you're playing Facebook's game. They're gathering the data, you get no benefit. So what you do, share it, and then you get a benefit. So if you want to do anything, so everybody out there, share the data. If everyone shared the important things and clicked on the shit, then what would happen? We'd end up getting a story out there. But we're doing, because everybody's addicted to sharing the blue button, the little clicky blue finger thing, right? And that's because what they're doing, that pulsing the architecture at you, it's called sticky architecture. There's quite a lot of intellectual property patents out there about control mind by using light. One of the things about light is you use about 80% of the information that's traveling into your body. The thing you communicate with is light. And really, if you think about it, if you break it down into its constituent parts, it's basically just an electronic signal traveling down your transducer, which is your eye, in the back of your head. We'll not get into the whole simulation hypothesis conversation there, because that will really get complicated. But let's talk about it from a human physical perspective. And light's basically, how a hypnotist hypnotizes people. Just think about this. The light that hits him, right, you get a reflection of those photons entering your eye. And obviously some people are more susceptible to it than others. And it's all down to, personal makeup, personal psychology, etc., etc. But make no mistake about it, that is an electronic signal that enters your eye, mainly, about 20% auditory as well. So those two things linked. Now, microwave pulse radiation, very similar thing. So Do you think I can control people's minds with it? Yeah. In fact, I said to a solicitor the other day, when they roll out 5G, right, I said, the next time you get a murder case or something like that, I said, I would really like to sort of do the technical side of the defense, because anybody that commits any sort of crime today really has a fantastic defense. If you've been bombarded with microwave radiation, you could do anything. I mean, autonomous cars, we're going to come on to autonomous cars later, but just to put it into context, you could have an autonomous car traveling past you, and the radar from that car could cause brain fog, and you could have an accident, or it could cause you to do something you didn't want to. The signals in your head, or you're talking like negative values. It's a chemical process, but you're still talking about electrical values and electron volts. Like it's a negative value to a positive value, and it's in 30 or 40 negative to a 20 or 30, 7. It all depends on the signal itself and the signal process and the chemical process that you have in your head. It's basically an electrical signal. And what are antennas? Antennas are just pulsing out electrical signals. So if you know what they are, and make no mistake about it, the military have years and years. They are so advanced in relation to this particular subject that blow your mind. So yeah, answer is yes. Yeah, it control people's thoughts. So it from my well, I think it's great because like I said, I spoke to this listener. I said the next sort of murder case you get, I'd really like to do a defence for someone, because I've got no doubt that these Wi-Fi and stuff, they must, well, we know that they subdue people's behaviour anyway, right? So on the other side, certain frequencies can make you angry, can make you aggressive. I mean, can you imagine some crosswave? You go into a flat. In fact, that could be a really interesting subject. Get some detectives out there and see they've seen like about 3 or 4 murders in the same block of flats in the same area. It could have something to do with a telecoms transmitter somewhere. You just don't know. This it's all open for conversation. But what I can tell you, those signals pass through your head at significantly higher values than what your brain operates on. It's one of the reasons why it causes dementia, because it's actually degrading your cellular function. And one of the reasons why, unfortunately, a lot of troops who fight abroad come back, the battlefield interrogation is damaged. It's basically brain injury, where they suffered brain injuries from these microwave radiation transmitters, and they come back. And I think these clowns over here call it, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's because they don't want to tell you that it's microwave radiation damage. And no doubt if you scanned their heads, you'd probably be able to see the damage. So, and they'd probably get a lot of claims there. But one of the things that I find absolutely appalling, these guys think they've lost their mind. They're waking up in the middle of the night, terrified, sweats, all the sort of symptoms of microwave radiation pollution. And the fact, if somebody treated them in a better way and told them it wasn't them, let's put an analogy out. If I chop your leg off and you're hopping around with one leg, but you don't know you've lost your other leg, but you've got something going on there, you're blaming yourself. You'd lose your mind, wouldn't you? Do you know if I'll actually cut one of your legs off and you had to hop about, but the doctor was telling you had 2 legs, you'd be thinking I'm crazy, wouldn't you? You'd think you'd absolutely lost your mind. Guess what? It's exactly the same with this PTSD. What they're not telling these troops is it's the battlefield interrogation equipment that has actually disabled them, and they're filling them full of drugs and telling the guys nothing wrong with you. You've actually had a physical injury. There's nothing wrong with you. Why is it every time anyone goes to the doctors, these GPs? I mean, honestly, the lady not far from me, Debbie. When I first came across this 5G transmitter network, I had been suffering a few sleepless nights. You've got to remember, I've been bombarded with RF before. You get the tingly. I got attacked in China with it, a weapon system, and I did work with it, so I knew what it was, and I knew the first thing to do, get a shower. If you have a nice shower and you feel a lot better, believers, it's most certainly EMF. If you like to go to the beach and run your toes in the sand, you're an EMF sufferer. If you like to stand in the wood and you feel really nice about things, EMF sufferer. All of these areas where you feel really better about yourself, it's basically because of the toxicity of microwave radiation. that you suffer. That can be natural, by the way, and not just artificial. But because of the ubiquitous use of these transmitters now, it's mainly artificial. So, these sort of, issues that people suffer, right? They go to the doctors and the doctor goes, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" It's basically, what they don't say is, switch a Wi-Fi router off at night, do this, do that. And the reason why GPs are biologists, they're chemists. So why would they know anything about electromagnetic radiation? My neighbour Debbie, who knocked on my door about the bleeding from the nose from the transmitters that had been covertly, secretly rolled out in Gateshead, these 31,000 transmitters, she started bleeding from the nose. Knocked on my door and said, "Mark, these transmitters, I'm bleeding from the nose." Well, she didn't know it was a transmitter. She said it was LED streetlight. I said, "Well, to be honest, Debbie, I'm not really sure. Light, higher frequency, doesn't travel very well through curtains, etc." I said, "Well, really," I said, "what's your blinds like? If you got, I says, "I'll suggest you get some thicker blinds if you think it's the light." Anyway, I noticed this transmitter on the top. And obviously, when I did the analysis, obviously it was a transmitter that was causing her nosebleeds. I gave Debbie some stuff, and she went to the local GP. The local GP tried to get that lady sectioned. Now, you've got to remember, the same GP is what I have. I went down to that GP's, and I raised the absolute roof. I have 4 published, peer-reviewed, cited papers that show that microwave radiation causes a thing called relay. And that relay is a bunching of the blood cells. Obviously, your nose, there's some very, very small sort of thread veins in your nose, and obviously those blood vessels are extremely thin, very, very sensitive. If you get a blood bunching in the nose, your heart, obviously, your nose is in an extremity, so consequently, your heart's very clever. It realizes you're not getting enough oxygen to your nose. It starts to increase the blood pressure. Next minute, pop, up goes your nose. So it's a well-known mechanism for microwave radiation to cause nosebleeds. Now, this GP actually contacted the local mental health unit to have this lady sectioned because she'd complained about this LED streetlight causing her nosebleeds. Now, that is the ignorance that our current doctors, these GPs who, once again, pay themselves inordinate amounts of money and don't even understand some of the basics of physiology, the basics of how cellular biology is affected by microwave radiation. Anyway, let's move on to phased array and 5G.
Just before you move on to that, a bit of good news is you're going out live on Gateshead Council's Facebook page. Thanks, Penny, for sharing that on there.
Brilliant. Well, brilliant. Well, Gateshead Council will not, one of the things with Gateshead Council won't answer my second question. Anyone who doesn't believe what Mark Steele says, do your own research. Listen to Gateshead Council's replies to me where they try to shut me down at the meeting. There's 2 videos on YouTube. Follow the videos. What I can tell you, I'm not lying. I've got the only benefit that I get from bringing this to the public's attention. These are my countrymen. This is my community. These are my family and friends. The only benefit I get from that is the humanitarian and the honor. I covert being an honorable person. And the only thing I get from that is the honor to represent my community. I'm not a criminal like the criminals at Gateshead Council who have rolled this secret, covert 5G rollout. Gateshead Council are still denying it's 5G. I know it to be 5G. It is illegal. It's been rolled out covertly and in breach of parliamentary laws, European directive laws. This council who are currently lying, didn't even carry out a public consultation. They are obliged under parliamentary law to carry out a full public consultation because this was a multi-million-pound technological rollout. And the only person who brought this to the public's attention was me. And I brought it to the public's attention because this is a humanitarian crime and I am obliged under international humanitarian criminal laws to act. Inaction is a crime.
And I think, Mark, there's more and more of us that are taking that stance as well. That they're doing things that perhaps are in the to the detriment of their own personal circumstances, but they're doing them because they feel a sense of duty, and that's what we need more of, more encouragement of. I just want to just read a few of the comments that we've had in the chat room, Al. I've got to say they're not very productive. But I want to read about anyway because I don't want our chat room stalwarts to think that we're ignoring them. I'm not going to read out about Steve. We've already covered Stephen Hawking's wheelchair. Thank you very much, Drunken Leeds. We've got no, Drunken Leeds. The 5G did not cause the boil on my arse. Dinny says 5G has been here for at least 20 years. 5G has been here for at least 20 years. They are trying to tell us. They are trying to tell us they are trying to tell you it's great technology now that it's actually being rolled out. But he says it's been here for 20 years. Sorry, the thing keeps scrolling, which is why I keep stopping and stuttering. Yeah. Drunken Leeds again. Faraday Cage. Hello to Ade, who's in the chat room. Ade's over in Thailand, as we said at the beginning of the show. He's listening and he's in the chat room, and he's probably got a pair of bollocks like some currants. So after his day there today. So you're all, yes, you're all good, Ade. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. And again, Dinny's saying 5G is old. What do you say to that? 5G is that 5G is old.
Well, no, 5G is not old at all. 5G is not even fully operational. 5G, the spectrum for 5G has only been released in 2011, and it's all about spectrum. And 5G basically means more, right? So yes, there are technologies. Phased array, which is 5G, was actually the first phased array radar was in 1942. It was called Mammoth. It was an early warning radar used by the Germans. It had a 200-mile range. There was 150 megahertz, 200 kilowatts, and it was 100 foot wide by 33 foot high. In fact, if anybody's watched Saving Private Ryan, that's one. You know the bit where they get themselves all a bit cut with a few machine guns at them. It's an early part. That's a Mammoth. And the reason I bring that out is to show that the lady's correct in the fact that phased array systems have been around for quite a while. However, they're a lot more sophisticated, and they're a lot smaller, and they're a lot more dangerous. And they're being rolled out in covert and in secret. And the antennas, these antennas that are masquerading as control management systems, can seek you out, can 3D map your home. Pretty disturbing. I've got the pictures, by the way. Mm-hmm. They look really nice bunny pictures. And I can target you as an individual. And what this potentially means. Anyone who's a threat to the state, anyone who basically gets in the way, anybody who's got a pension. I mean, I always laugh because, you get police officers and you get, these chief executives. I mean, the chief executive gets a council, no doubt she's got herself a couple of million tucked away for a pension. I'll tell you what, if I was on the other side of that beamwave, she's not getting it. Because, these things are always about money. It's always about the cash.
Yeah. He
who benefits, Q bono, and I'm going to tell you now. See, these public sector think they're going to get their pensions. Got no chance. This technology will reduce their life expectancy without it being weaponized by 15 to 20 years. Right? If they think they're going to get a pension, I'm sure that if I was going to target anyone, it'll be the ones that are drawn, they've got 2 or 3 million. I mean, I spoke to a few surgeons from James Cook University, and a guy was telling me, I mean, they were absolutely proud of it. They've got these massive pensions in and I thought, Christ almighty, it's like putting a big target. You may as well just get a big target on your back, because this weapon system, believe us, it's there for a purpose. And like I said before, it's all about the money. And let's talk about that, because if anybody wants to, You know, I wouldn't normally talk about weapon systems because obviously some of it is it's kind of covered on the Official Secrets Act, and you're sort of you're heading into no man's land. But if I was to tell you these 5G steered beams are weapons, I can say that because a couple of weeks ago, I think it's about 3 weeks ago now, and obviously I would suggest anybody out there who wants to have a look for this, 5G is making its global debut at Olympics, and it's wicked fast. All right? So if you go and have a look on, if you type that in to a search engine, and it'll bring up Bloomberg. Bloomberg's obviously a financial paper, and what it shows is the 5G phased array weapon is being used in South Korea at the Olympics to attack wild boar in the jungle. Now, one of the things about weapon systems is normally they test them on pigs, porcine. It's quite an interesting thing because pigs are quite a lot like humans. So the fact that they're testing this 5G weapon, they're shooting pigs, or they're shooting wild boar in the jungle using a phased array weapon. Now, that's pretty interesting. I believe someone's telegraphing to somebody to tell them exactly what 5G is. So 5G is not only a sophisticated weapon system, it's an inadvertent weapon. Because, you know, you talk about these beams and these higher frequency waveforms. Can you imagine getting in between one? So, you know, I'm traveling down the street, I'm down at a really fast film, and it's absolutely fantastic and great, woo-wee, right? And I turn around and I get between the device antenna and the transmission antenna. So I'm actually downloading the film through me head into the device. Or you've got an autonomous vehicle traveling past you, because obviously autonomous vehicles, that's what 5G is all about as well. It's about these autonomous vehicles. You've got an autonomous vehicle going past you. It's irradiating with all these class A cancer-causing radiations, lasers, you know, lasers that'll put your eye out, that type of stuff. I'm not saying the lasers in autonomous cars will put your eye out, by the way, but a number of them will. And I'll explain that later on. We'll come on to the vehicles and autonomous nonsense in a minute, but let's talk about the trees at Sheffield first, because I think that's, you know, you guys are down there, anyone in the Sheffield area. Amy are a major player in the smart metering contracts across the country. All right. They're a technology company. They're involved in autonomous vehicles. They're involved in smart cities. They have a number of contracts with some of the biggest telecoms providers, hardware providers, street lighting, this intelligent street lighting, the same nonsense as what they've rolled out in Gateshead. It's exactly the same type of stuff. Now, the issue that they have is trees getting in the way of 5G signals, higher frequency waveforms, and especially if they get wet, they take the signal to Earth. So they have to come out. So the Victorians planted trees in these cityscapes for the environment, because trees, as we all know, reduce CO2. They're good for biodiversity. I think you know an average tree takes in about 6 tons of CO2 a year, puts it underground. It improves the water quality, the fixed nitrates, and the nutritionists, you know, of the apples and all the rest of it. And obviously they're nice to look at. And you get lots of butterflies and things like that. So it's a human right to live in a toxic-free environment. So why would a local authority want to chop down all of the things in your environment that clean it up? Capture
and the
CO2.
ironic thing is, Mark, is at the same time they're running a cleaner air campaign at the same time as they're chopping the trees down. That's how ridiculous it is. I tweeted a reply to that. I tweeted, well, cleaner air. You know, Sheffield, where democracy comes to die. Where common sense comes to die. You know, what they want to do is they want to tax more people in the city centre. That's the cleaner air scheme. But then they're chopping down the very natural thing that will provide cleaner air. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I suggest anybody who's in Sheffield set up a Save Us Now chapter. All right, contact Save Us Now. at the website, set up a chapter, and what we'll do, we'll have a run at Sheffield Council. We'll bring an army of people from around the country, and we'll stop this madness. All right? So anybody down there, set up a Save Us Now chapter. Let's get organised, and let's get these criminals, because these councillors, the Sheffield Council have already done the deal to chop down all the trees. Smart city, got very, very little to do with the roads. I mean, the BBC did a knock the other day, and obviously they're showing one tree where it's bulging out the road. Wowee. That's to sort of, to allay the general population's fear that there's something untoward going on. Well, guess what? Something untoward going on. There's a crime against humanity. We are entitled under humanitarian laws to live in a free and toxic-free environment. Pulling them trees down to replace them with a mast that emits a Class A cancer-causing radiation, it's a crime. So the police, by arresting those protesters, are acting unlawfully. The humanitarian laws are simple and clear. Those protesters are protecting their environment. What I want to know is, why aren't there solicitors using the humanitarian and environmental laws that are being broken in defence of any of the illegality that's been laid against them by the local police or others? Because this most certainly, their obstruction of someone chopping a tree down, that is their right. It is their humanitarian right. And the international humanitarian laws say that anybody that gets in their way is a criminal. Really important, this. People need to get their act together. Look, Save Us Now is our opportunity to take back our country. Our laws have been broken. The laws are there. Here's a one for you. Between those transmitters, the transmitters have rolled out in Gateshead, right? Because I am going to frighten everybody. I'm going to terrorise everybody now. I'm going to really give you the real story, all right? Because we need to stop pussyfooting around. Each transmitter, right, is a 25 milliwatt transmitter. That's 360 electron volts per square metre. So that's in its first square metre. So in a 10 square metre block, you're talking 37. The 34 electron volts, you ionize air. Ionized air is a charged air particle. If you breathe it in, it increases your chance of developing lung cancer, because you're discharging the charged particle in your lung, and that causes oxidative stress. And we know that the mechanism of oxidative stress leads to cancer. It's why, one of the reasons why smoking was not a very good idea. So anybody that smokes out there, I mean, that's your choice. And I would never, look, if you want to smoke, crack on. It's up to you. If you want to reduce your life expectancy by 10 or 15 years, and I've heard the old argument, I mean, my grandfather lived till he was 87-year-old, and he smoked roll your owns every single day. He used to sit. In fact, when I was a kid, I mean, he'd probably get locked up today, I used to sit and roll his tabs for him. He used to pay like a shilling for rolling his tabs up for him. And, I mean, you can just imagine it. But that was his choice. Whether he was addicted, it was his choice. This is not your choice. You're being exposed to this radiation. You're being exposed to these charged air particles without any by your leave. You didn't even know. You didn't know that your local authority, from these control management transmitters, are charging the air particles that will increase your chance of developing lung cancer, throat cancer, mouth cancers. You didn't know that, did you? And nobody does, because nobody takes a care about the reality of what's going on. They've got their head stuck in, some soap or some other nonsense. Well, guess what? We don't start taking things seriously. You're going to lose your democracy. You're going to lose your freedom. These idiots will have us as slaves. They'll turn the country into Rome, and it won't work. Because your economy has collapsed. They're already collapsing the economy. We know that. This will pretend, the economy's going great. It's not. They're fixing it by printing money, and they know there's something coming down the line. And consequently, what we have to do Save Us now is about the rule of law. This country set out, we'll have the rule of law, we'll have the Constitution. The UK Constitution is fixed. We have the laws in place to act. All we need is a political party that will enact them and will actually... These elites, like Gateshead Council, are immune to the law. I had 2 police officers come to my home. I made a complaint with Northumbria Police about these neighbours of mine who are bleeding from the nose. It's administration of a noxious substance. Now, to say that microwave radiation is not a noxious substance is a bit silly when it's used as a weapon. So it's not a very good argument. Anyway, the 2 chaps came down. I think they must just thought I was a bit of a cracker until I showed them all the peer-reviewed published research and all the evidence to show that this was exactly what was causing these ladies' nosebleeds, this assault. So that's what it is, it's assault. They're being bombarded with microwave radiation and it's assaulting them. It's reducing their life expectancy and increasing the chance of them. It lowers your immune system and increases your chance of, developing all sorts of illnesses.
Mark, we've had a question in chat room from Aid, who's our co-host. He's away in Thailand at the moment, but he's listening to us from his hotel room, I suppose. But I don't know what time it is there, but he won't tell me because I've asked him in chat room. But he said, is there anything? Can you buy a 5G detector or blocker? And is there any way that you can protect yourself from this? I know earlier on, Drunken Leeds popped in the chat room that a Faraday cage might do it, but we can't live as lives in a Faraday cage, can we? Unless you could buy a Faraday cage suit, and it's. Is there anything we can do to protect ourselves? And is there anything we can do to detect it as well? Is there something? But I suppose 5G is a collection of different things, different radiations and different EMFs and different waves. So I suppose you can individually identify them, but you can't really pop them into a package and say, yes, this is 5G.
Well, what I do, I normally measure just the power density levels of radiation from these emitters. But what I'm absolutely positive about, 5G and especially higher frequency waveforms, you can't measure them at all. So consequently, if let's say I was to weaponize this system, you wouldn't actually be able to pick up the signal. So I could be weaponized and kill you. I mean, this is a fantastic weapon for someone that wants to get away with it. Because the police, this is totally beyond their comprehension, by the way. So, imagine you could pick somebody out, kill them in their bed. It's the perfect weapon. Because the police, doctors, a doctor wouldn't even want to get involved. They'd put it down to something else because it's totally beyond their comprehension. The police would put it beyond their comprehension. So really, it could be a very, very interesting weapon to use against people. And I've got no doubt that it already has. One of the things about phased array signals, you have to know where they are and where they're coming from to be able to measure them. And at higher frequencies, the equipment's just not there. There isn't the equipment to be able to measure it. And like I said before, the 2.5 gigahertz weapon that was used against the US Embassy in Moscow, the Americans, with all that very, very clever, sophisticated equipment, couldn't even find it. So they didn't even know they were being attacked. They knew they were being attacked because obviously that a few ambassadors died on them, and a lot of their staff were being made extremely sick. So they knew the Russians were up to no good. And I think the reason why it didn't, you can't find that in the public domain, by the way, just go and search Wikipedia for it. The reason why there wasn't a great deal made of it was because obviously the Americans are probably the best in the world at these particular secret weapon systems out of Silicon Valley. So there wasn't a great deal of publicity about it. And it's the same as, the attack on the Cuban embassy. It was a microwave radiation weapon. We knew it was a microwave radiation. Who would use an ultrasound weapon to bombard an embassy? Because there'd be other effects that you would see. Your computers would break down. You'd see some type of vibration. There'd be other effects that you'd probably notice. I would use a sophisticated microwave radiation weapon, and you just wouldn't know. Anyway, let's get on.
Sorry, we're sort of looking at all the we've got plenty of comments and things and questions coming in. I think AD's just posted something. Did you just post that? Something from AD, Andy?
Yeah, he's just said. They asked Mark if it can buy a 5G detector, but also he said it'll save the authorities suiciding people. I mean, what rationale can the people who are rolling this out have? Because they're surely going to be subject to this same microwave array, phased array radiation themselves. So it's going to kill them as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, not only is it going to kill them. I mean, I laugh all the time because you get the whenever you post anything on social media, you get the tinfoil hat thing. Yeah. And obviously, it's narrative. It's like conspiracy. You talk about conspiracy, the whole conspiracy. Believers, I leave conspiracy theories to the police, and I leave conspiracy to the police because it's a crime. It's a registered crime. It's not some, something that that should be attributed to lunatics and fantasists. Most certainly not. You can go to prison for it, right? So therefore, conspiracy is a word that's been hijacked to be attributed to kooks and lunatics. Well, most certainly not. There is a conspiracy. There are conspiratorial things that happen all of the time. You only have to look out of the box to be able to see this. So, I'm astounded at the misinformation that the mainstream pump out all the time. And, like as you said before, these people are at risk. They are more risk than the guys living on some, stink pot council estate. Believe it, you've got some guy in a council estate who's, he's getting 60 quid a week on the dole. He's a pretty, he's not a bad guy. He makes a good slave. We can get him into a factory and, probably get him to work for a couple of $100 a week. All right. I've got a chief executive who's just retired. He's got 6 million quid in his pension pot, right? And he's drawn 100 grand a year, right? Or 200 grand, or some judge who's drawn like 200 or 300 grand a year. Believe us.
Fuck all for it.
And exactly. Well, guess what? He's gone. He's off. These weapon systems, believe us, are extremely sophisticated, and you can pick people out as individuals and attack them. And not only that, you can actually destroy dissent. And one of the things that is really worrying about that, if you look at Eastern Germany, it imploded on the back of everybody finding everybody. So I understand. You see, I understand the drive to want to spy and gather all the data, but what you've got to remember is if you kill everybody, then the spy's out of a job because they've got nobody to spy on. There's, it doesn't make any sense if you kill what you don't do if you're a farmer, right? Your farmer, I know I've heard all this shit about farmers. Farmers are absolutely look after those cattle and they look after those livestock. And the reason why, I mean, you do get the odd errant farmer who is just a bit of a tosspot. Most farmers absolutely look after their livestock for one simple reason. It's money. Yeah. And you've got to look after that money. It's got a value to you. So there's a driver to look after it. And if the intelligence agencies don't look after the people of this country, who's going to pay their wages?
Yes, that's a very, very good point, Mark. I mean, absolutely astonishing information that you've come out with. I've posted the link to saveusnow.org.uk in pretty much everywhere I think we're going out as far as I can. But I'd urge you to go and have a look at that website and also have a look at some of the stuff that Mark's sharing on Facebook. I know there's perhaps stuff that he'd like to be able to share that can't, but he's certainly doing as a good service by sharing the information that he is. We've got a few more questions. Alan Wilson, who was on last week, Alan's come up with the thought, well, surely you can use the law of trespass if somebody's breaking the law, which it appears quite evident that they are. But then it's getting the court system to the judicial system to act upon that law breaking, isn't it?
Well, it's the Gateshead Council broke the law. Gateshead Council broke a number of laws, and here's a really interesting one for you. Obviously, I went through their full complaints procedure. I come at them in quite an interesting way, because obviously from an environmental perspective, the Aarhus Convention and European directives, they have to do a full environmental impact, and especially these are LED streetlights. So not only is a transmitter a known carcinogen and has known and is known to impact wildlife, they have to do this full risk assessment. Well, they didn't do it. They didn't do an environmental risk analysis. They didn't do any human rights analysis. They didn't do any health analysis, and they most certainly didn't do a public consultation. All are acting. This is all unlawful, by the way. Parliamentary law, parliamentary law is quite clear. Large projects have to be undertaken with full public consultation. We have in Gateshead zero, none. So I knew there was a number of reasons I could go at Gateshead Council, because obviously they were outside of the legal system, etc. So I went after them on the back of no public consultation, no environmental impact, blah, blah, blah. All right? Now, that went through their local authority complaints procedure, and they found themselves, obviously, didn't find themselves at fault. But then I thought, well, I'll take this to the local government ombudsman. Now, the local government ombudsman stated that they didn't find them at fault either. And the reason for that is because Gateshead Council have in their constitution a little proviso that says that basically they're beyond the law. They don't have to carry out public consultation. Even though they admitted that they hadn't carried out a public consultation, a parliamentary law states that they must, and especially on larger projects, this was a multi-million-pound project, no public consultation at all, none. So the LGO finds Gateshead aren't at fault because, now this is the ombudsman, local government ombudsman finds Gateshead Council not at fault because Gateshead Council have in their constitution that they don't have to. So I go back to the LGO and appeal that decision, saying Gateshead Council are a lower court. Their laws on their rules and regulations and laws are not, there's a second, lads, they are not and cannot overcome parliamentary laws or European directives. So the LGO have come back and stated, right, that Gateshead Council are still not at fault because basically they're above the law. Well, that's not the case, and that is what is happening today in these institutions. Why would PHE willfully misinform on the risks of non-ionizing radiation? Think about this. PHE have tested one of these transmitters, right, to a standard, one transmitter, so it's a 25 milliwatt transmitter, and they say that it's safe. All right. Now, each one of these transmitters has a minimum 8 kilometer footprint. All right. So it can fire radiation over 8 kilometers. We in Gateshead have 31,875, all charged in the air, all causing, which cause lung cancer. It's an annihilation event. And over time, and PHE have said that it's safe, right? And they've also said, right, that this non-ionizing radiation, right, will not, it's it just doesn't make any sense. That's totally outside of the law, and this is what we'll have to get back to. I saw it with these product developments, where the international regulatory standards, like I said before, we may as well just get all of the law, all those books, all that history, all those standards, build a big bonfire, set fire to the lot. As believers, if those elites can do what they want, well, why can't we? This is going back to the jungle. It's the law of the jungle. This is why these IC and IRP guidelines, this is the law of pirates. It's piracy. There's no standard.
Going back, and taking that entire argument right back to a very, very basic argument. You know, when you're talking about the LED lights, the street lights that have been put up everywhere, I know we've got them around here, right? And if you want to take it back to a really, really, really basic argument, and perhaps something that you could engage people in with, but they're wank. They are wank. They. Right, I remember them old, you know, where you get a concrete one and it got all pebbles in it and whatever, or a concrete lamp post, and if you drove your bike into it and you cut your head up, and you know, because they're all little pebbles that were in there, but you learned from that, didn't you? And it had that orange light and that orange glow, and what I noticed is this last year. This last couple of months, we've had quite a bit of snow, and I'd look out of the window while it was snowing, and we were getting, you know, we got quite deep snow up here, and I'd look out of the window and I'd notice the flakes coming past the light, and I was trying to, like, I was yearning back to when you had that orange light, and it sort of gave the snow a different little glow to it, and it seemed more friendly, and it seemed more, I don't know, it seemed more cozy than what this crap that we've got now, these LED lights, you know. So for me, that's one way of taking it right back, and perhaps engaging people that are not 5G experts, you know, literate, to be able to get them to think about it.
If I can just jump in there, there's been a very interesting aside to this posted by Aid in the chat room. It's great having Aid taking part in the show from Thailand, even though he won't come on Skype. But he's saying that they've now passed a law, presumably it's while we're all watching this Skirple chemical weapons bullshit, saying that it's illegal to protest against anything that's classed as infrastructure, and that's how they're going to stop the fracking protests, so they believe. So, because I said to him, I've not heard that. Where do you get that from? He said Luis Castro. So if she's got that from Lou, then I'd imagine it'd be pretty good information.
The UK Parliament passed a law not long ago about the trespass of private land, so that these telecoms companies can chop all your trees down on private land. So make no mistake about it. Look, we have a fight on our hands, but believe this: we are the very, very many, and they are the very, very, very few. And what's really going on here? The law of the land is being broken. We are all under attack. Under the UK constitutional law, all bets are off. These authorities have got no authority. This is a weapons system they have rolled out, inadvertently or other. All bets are off. I know constitutional law, and I know that it's now time for the fight back. Save us now. What we don't want is revolution. What we don't want is revolution, because make no mistake about it, the state apparatus will use that. That absolutely love it. They'd love a Marxist state. Eastern Germany wouldn't do anybody any good, by the way. What we'll have to do, we have to engage people who've got resources, people who have wealth. They will lose everything. Businesses will lose everything. This is an existential threat to everyone and everything. I mean, it's good when you've got nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm not sure. Has Jason dropped off the call now? What on earth's going on? Oh, I've dropped off the call.
These political arenas and local authorities, etc., and rule them over, they are criminal. They're acting outside of the law. This is a criminal event. What I'm most certainly sure about, administration of a noxious substance is covered under UK criminal law. The ionising, the charging of those air particles is a crime. Those ubiquitous number of transmitters at every 2 or 3 meters, because that's what 5G is about, is charging those air particles. It will kill your children. It will kill you. It will kill your pets. Never before have governments ever are we ever going to allow them? This isn't Nazi Germany where they're going to roll you up on a truck and take you down and gas you. Well, guess what? We're here for the fight back. That's what Save Us Now is about. It's time to stop talking. It's time to stop being keyboard warriors, and it's time to act.
Oh, I think we'd certainly echo those sentiments. It is time for us to act. I mean, we've been overcome by these people on various different levels, and it still seems that there are people that are being overcome by the deception. Hence, if we get right back to the beginning, the hostility that the 5G people were suffering at the tree protest in Sheffield on Saturday. I've got some footage of that. I will upload that perhaps on
It's
Facebook.
unbelievable. Stag, the Stag group, they all have been set up by the state operators. No two ways about it. We brought this to the attention of Stag group very early on about the 5G connection. Now they threatening to bar people. If I mentioned 5G again, they're threatening to bar me from the page. I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. And what it shows, the administrators at Facebook obviously are acting for the state. Now, we know that this is that MO. You know, they infiltrated a lot of the environmental groups. But think about how sophisticated this is. They've actually set this organisation up. So, I mean, it beggars belief. I mean, you know, the thing I wanted to cover tonight is autonomous vehicles. You know, there's been quite a bit in the news about them exploding, etc. around the world. Yeah. Electric cars, quite an interesting story here. And obviously, people who have money, you know, go out and buy them. Foolishly, I would suggest. The electric vehicles, obviously, there's a lot of magnetic flux in that electric vehicle. I would suggest not putting your children there. It does fit within IC and IRP guidelines, but we've discussed that earlier on in the show about the inadequacies. Yeah. But I would definitely think twice about that. But let's just put this into perspective about the unlawful and the criminality at these institutions.
All right. Well, listen, we've got 2 minutes, so if you can get that into 2 minutes, then
quickly as I can. Department of Transport have licensed these vehicles to come on British roads, all right, to be tested. That's illegal anyway on the Nuremberg Code. You can't test technology on people, and that's exactly what they're doing. There's one just run some poor lady over in the USA. However, the LiDAR systems on some of these vehicles, all right, the LiDAR's a Class 1 laser. Right now, you can't. It's in part of the spectrum that you can't see. So, if I shone a Class 1 laser at your eye, you'd most certainly want to get out of the way. It would damage your eyes, but it would have to be there for a while. But your eyes are pretty sophisticated and flicker around to actually stop that laser from doing damage. And it's the reason why a Class 1's class is safe to your eye. However, if you were traveling down a normal vehicle, and you had one of these LiDAR systems coming up behind you, you've got 3 mirrors in your car. That LiDAR's picked up in 3 of them, and they're directed at your eyes and your head. So not only is the LiDAR directed, the radar is as well. That could cause you to have maybe a bit of brain fogging, or, you know, you could do something inadvertent, maybe have an accident, run into an autonomous vehicle, and the next minute you've got a catastrophe. The lithium-ion batteries in these vehicles, if highly charged, if they can basically go off like a bomb. Can you imagine the centre of London where one of these electric wagons, because obviously this Mayor of London's thinking about mandating electric vehicles, can you imagine having one go off in the middle of London? You've got all that toxic, I mean, this is a hazardous material bomb, a bit like a nuclear bomb, you know. I mean, you're talking about this is the toxicity levels from these heavy metals are absolutely lethal. Can you imagine one of these HGVs in the middle of London? Because I can show that's going to be that plan. The diesel vehicles and petrol vehicles won't be allowed in cityscapes. So London, and you have one of these bombs go off in the middle of London. I mean, it's a terrorist's wet dream. And guess what? We've got governments planning it. What's all that about?
Yeah, well, it's a big issue, and I think it's an issue that we should get into. You're welcome back on our show at any time. I mean, you're obviously a man that's got. We've probably only scratched the surface of what we can get out of you tonight. But
no, you're not getting anything secret, I can tell you.
But we can only thank you very much for coming on Raconteurs News. We are at the end of the show. It's been a great show. Thanks very much to everybody who's been in the chat room. Thanks to everybody who's been watching on Facebook Live as well. Wherever you're watching it from, whoever shared it, we've had quite a few shares tonight. So not quite as many as Gateshead Council, but you know.
But they have employed some company based in China. You know, they've probably got about 2,000.
Well, you probably find this Facebook video will not get many hits, or it'll even be taken down because. But yeah. Well,
there's one of the things that they're doing, like that's the truth, and believe you me, the truth will always be out.
And, yeah, it certainly will, and we are going to keep trying to get it out as well, and we'll give the voice to as many people like yourself as we can. But yeah, thank you very much, Mark Steele, for our 5G lesson tonight. I think that was lesson 1. A lot to take in. So anybody on your want to be doing your homework for next time we have Mark on, and perhaps let's have some some good questions. We had some great questions tonight. A lot of activity in the chat room and in the on the Facebook live chat as well. Tomorrow night we've got Ben Gilroy. Webby's going to be with us at some point on that one, and Andy as well. But obviously not Aid because he's in Thailand up to his nuts in guts.
Well, he did try and join us tonight, but we couldn't somehow manage to get him into this call, unfortunately.
No, I think he's probably got a bit of a dodgy. You know what hotel internet connections are like. They're always a bit dodgy, aren't they? So I'm sure he's probably laid on his back doing the starfish on his king-size bed now, completely stark bollock naked after a long day of top-level shagging. So good for you, Ada. We wish you well. Hope you enjoy the rest of your holiday. Andy, have you got anything to add before we depart?
No, just thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks to Mark for excellent information.
Brilliant.
No problem, guys. And listen, like I said before, just a quick one. Do your own research. Martinelli, PAL, etc., etc. Just go and have a look out there. 5G, existential threats, and believe you me, you'll come up with the same assumptions. Well, the same narratives, what I've been espousing tonight.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Mark. That's Mark Steele. It's Raconteurs News. We'll be back tomorrow night. Thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back tomorrow night with Ben Gilroy on raconteursnews.com, on Spreaker.com/users/Raconteurs News, and on Facebook Live, on my Facebook Live page. So take care, have a good day tomorrow, and we hope to see you along with us and Ben Gilroy. I wouldn't have said Gilroy then. Bloody hell. All right, take it easy. Ta-ra a bit.
Cause I'm off to the hole in the road. I'm wagging off school and I'm off to the city, watching telly all night and I'm not looking pretty. See, I got this job downtown, selling knocked off ladies watches for £1 for a really dodgy man that I met in a dodgy cafe. You know, he said to me, the girl who sold these yesterday wasn't selling very carefully. Police came along and took her and all my watches away. So if you see some coppers, you grab my stuff and leg it, boy, right away. I'll be in the cafe. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way through life. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way through life. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. Spent a few hours and I haven't sold enough for my bus fare home. Street selling's pretty tough, so I turn on the charm for the lunchtime rush with a smile and a wiggle on my schoolboy touch. So the charm is working in the underground. There's a crowd of men and women gather round, and the watches they are going, the money is a flowing. Think I'll chuck a little extra, stick it in my pocket, spend you later. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way through life. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way through life. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I haven't sold a watch for an hour and I'm dying for a slash. I've had enough of this, so I'm off for a piss. Then a quick walk back round to the cafe, sitting at his table drinking tea. Looks at me suspiciously, then with a glance at the watch he says, how did you do? He paid me a couple of quid, then he said, would you like to come and work another day? I said I'd come back down on Friday, and to that he said okay. So with £2 in my pocket and another 5 in my shoe, I nipped down to Castle Market, where a man who looks like Leo Sayer is selling pots with cockles and prawns. You make me feel like dancing. Then off back to dinner on the Wiggers and then home. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from life, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield, making his way. I'm just a boy from Sheffield.